The PlayStation Portal is a solution to a problem that many of us didn't realize we have. One of the things about the PlayStation 5, either the original or even the Slim, is that it's a stationary piece of hardware. You need to be connected to a TV, and if the TV is busy, let's say somebody in the family is using it, you can't play the game. You have to figure out either use their basically the remote play using your smartphone and a controller. And I feel like that solution, although works, it doesn't really hit the spot. Not only that, it literally looks like they took a controller from the PlayStation 5, stretched it out and put a tablet in there. An accessory and a must-have to anybody that has the PlayStation 5 or the PlayStation 5 Slim. Let's check it out. Like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified whenever we have new videos on the channel. So here is the box. The PlayStation Portal is exactly like as you're seeing it in the picture. It's essentially a controller, or for the lack of a better term, they took the PlayStation 5 controller and they stretched it out. They opened it up and they provided us now with a configuration that is pretty much a solid piece. And as you can see right there, the controller looks exactly like a PlayStation controller. We have the controllers here, the joysticks, the PlayStation logo or the button for the PlayStation moved up to the top left, and of course we have a mute on and off for microphone for whenever we're playing games. We have the 4-button configuration. We have the triggers on the top. Now, what we have here as far as configuration, we have 2 speakers, top-mounted firing speakers, so they fire upwards. A volume rocker, a plus and minus here on the right side. What I'm not sure, but it could be a microphone. Here we have the actual controller. This is the connection to the PlayStation buds that are pretty much the only way to get any kind of wireless audio from the system. Of course, we have a very nice large power button, and of course the R1, L1 configuration on the top. On the back, it's pretty much a straightforward experience. You kind of see what this is. This is literally a tablet attached to a stretched out hand, or basically controller in here. We have one more opening here at the back, and of course the USB-C. It only runs basically power. This is literally the only thing you're able to do to charge up the battery that's built in here. And audio currently out of the box is pretty much just straight using a 3.5mm headphone jack. No wireless, no headphones are included. If you do want to use the actual wireless solution, that's one of the things that they have they have built into the system but not included. So you're able to pick up the PlayStation buds. But other than that, you pretty much just get a real quick instruction here. So a remote player, lecteur de licence. As far as some of the main specifications that we have in here, it's an 8-inch full HD LCD touch panel. So no OLED, but definitely works and runs pretty good. About 4.5 hours on a good with full brightness on the display. We have a USB-C port that's going to be purely for charging, and a headphone jack or a headset jack that enables us to get audio, built-in stereo speakers, compatibility with basically PlayStation Link. That was that additional button that we had in there that runs at 2.4 gigahertz to the buds themselves. So there's no Bluetooth built in here. Approximately charging time for 2.5 hours, but one of the things I'll say is it's running a 4370 milliampere battery built in here. And of course, the weight in here is about 2.6 pounds, but it doesn't really feel like it. It is super, super light. And then other than that, they just include the USB-C to C cable. Now they do recommend connecting it directly to your PlayStation from the front port to be able to charge it. But again, you can charge it with any configuration. There is no charging brick included in the box, but it'll be able to run pretty good. One of the biggest things you'll notice on the big thing here on the bottom right, it says specifically that this does require a PlayStation. Just make sure, and I'll say this multiple times, this is a remote player for the PlayStation. This is not an intention or an all-inclusive system, kind of like what the original PSP used to be, where you'd be able to run games on them. This literally has to have a PlayStation connected to it over the same account, and that's how you'll be able to set it up. Once you have that done, you're pretty much set to go. Last thing before we go, as far as the box itself is pretty much straightforward. It just explains to us the experience that you're expecting here. And as you can imagine, this is kind of really odd, but this has been literally the game I've been playing for the last couple of days, or actually about 3 days now, ever since Christmas. And this is one of the biggest things. It's definitely very, very enjoyable, and it literally feels like I'm playing it on the big screen. You can play your games on, and I'll explain to you a little bit some of the caveats with when I say you can play your games anywhere you want. Okay, so configuring this is pretty straightforward. When you first turn it on, you basically push the power button here. And I think one of the main things they did here is they made sure that the button was big enough for us to be able to touch it or feel for it whenever you're doing it. Then you actually have to push the little PlayStation button that normally would have been positioned in the center. And at that point, it pretty much just automatically tries to connect to the PlayStation. If your PlayStation, and once you've set it up, if your PlayStation is asleep and you're, let's say, outside, it will automatically connect to the PlayStation, wake it up from hibernation mode, and then connect it and allow you to play. You'll notice on the side here, we have a few buttons here. It gives us the name of the PlayStation. It's PlayStation 5. That's the connection that I have. I can click the X here and tell it to start connecting. You can see the Wi-Fi connection. I have a very strong connection. Full battery time is 2:46 p.m. If I swipe from here on the right side, this again, you'll see the PlayStation connected. You can control the brightness. Airplane mode is intended to turn off the Wi-Fi function to it. So I'm not sure why it's in there, because other than actually connecting it over Wi-Fi, you can't really use it. But that's one of the big things. When it comes down as far as, of course, the PS Link headset disconnection, because I don't have one right now, that's pretty much the same thing that we have on the button to be able to initiate the pairing process. If you go in there, you're able to go into network, configure your Wi-Fi. You can jump into the settings as far as system. You have language, date and time, power savings as well. And of course, display and brightness. You can go in there, customize the experience. It is a 1080p 60 frames per second IPS LCD panel. Controller, pretty much the same thing. Vibration, strong. Trigger effect, very strong. This is pretty much like using a standard PlayStation controller. Legal notice and certification incomplete. And of course, if you want to sign out of your account, you could do so. You do have to set up your account, go into your PlayStation 5 and turn on remote play. Once you turn that on and they're connected to the same Wi-Fi, you set up your account, you log in, and at that point, we'll go ahead and say connect. I'll give it the X. And it pretty much just basically looks for the PlayStation over the Wi-Fi. And again, since they're logged into the same account, it'll connect to it even if you're outside. You do not have to be at home, but you do need to be connected to a really good internet connection. And as you see right there, I'm connected. You can see the recent applications that I have in there. I can go ahead and go B. You can back in here. This is Spider-Man. I'm playing right now. I'm using Miles Morales as the character. I can run. And this is going to be one of the biggest things I'll say. The internet connection, the connection type of internet that you have in here. Let's go ahead and go back here. Actually, let's go ahead and bring up the menu. The speed and the connection throughput that you have will dictate how your experience is going to be on here. It is recommended to have a very fast wireless internet connection, even when you're home. For me, I'm using my, this is the Google Wi-Fi mesh routers that I have in here. And for the most part, I've been able to play it pretty well in the at home. The only thing I'll probably say is it does take about 30 to 40 seconds for it to go from sleep mode to wake up the PlayStation to give us the login screen. If you have a pin on your PlayStation, that will come up here and you're able to put in your pin using a controller, very similarly to the way you do it on your regular controller. But once you're done from there, you're pretty much able to basically bring up the normal menus. And the one thing I'll probably say is if you notice that there's basically no touchpad, that pretty much what used to be here for the most part has been switched over to be more of two virtual ones. So there's one on the right and one on the left. You can do the same configuration and touch vibration on there and it works just the same. You'll notice right there, my account, the battery level, the mic, the download manager. One thing I will say, content like let's say Netflix or media doesn't play through. It is literally just for playing games from your PlayStation. Either discs or if you have access to the PlayStation Network, which also kind of runs very nicely. And of course, if I want to be able to jump in, I can see the battery section. You can definitely see all the different things here. So you can scroll down, I can scroll all the right. And if your PlayStation is turned on, by the way, this actually will mimic what's going on right there. So the mic right now is turned off. I can turn it back on. You'll notice right there, turn it off. Speakers, I can configure the sound. You can go in there as far as game, mute, voice chat, all the things that you want. And of course, go back into the game the way you want to. So you can jump in, go back into the game, and you could see how the colors look. This is exactly how it's connected. I'm connected to my PlayStation. It's running beautifully. And that's going to be the biggest difference here. This is literally giving you that experience, that one solution type of an experience that you kind of get a good experience when you're going with, let's say, a phone and a controller, but then you have to get the mount, and then you also have to make sure everything is set up. But at the end of the day, this literally only runs the PlayStation system on it, and that's pretty much what makes it very nice. Now, we need to talk about connectivity and some of the limitations that come with it. So what the PlayStation Portable is doing really is just offering us a remote play option to be able to use something like this, a tablet connected to a controller, a PlayStation controller with the vibration configuration, all the buttons, all the touch sensitivities that you want, something you're very much familiar with when you're playing your PlayStation. But it solves a big problem for me because I know, and there's obviously other options that you can do. You can obviously play remote play on a phone, you can do different things. But the experience is never going to be married, or at least mimicking what a large 8-inch tablet, a 1080p tablet that will give us. And of course, the colors on here are actually pretty decent. The gaming experience will depend on your internet connection. If you have a solid internet connection, let's say you're connected at home, everything works fine, top notch, no problem. The moment you go outside, here's where some of the limitations are going to come in. If you have to connect to, let's say, a public Wi-Fi that has to have, let's say, an authentication port, you connect to it, it automatically opens up a browser and you have to kind of check a box, say, put in a name and an email. Unfortunately, this doesn't work because this has no browser built into it. They may have one in the future, but the current version of it does not have that. And for me, at least, the way I've been circumventing or going around that here is I connect my smartphone to, let's say, said Wi-Fi, authenticate there, and turn on a hotspot. And then I've been connecting to my phone's hotspot on the PlayStation Portable, and that worked really well for me. So as I'm in the car waiting, charging my car, or going outside, let's say at the coffee shop, as long as there's a solid internet connection, this is going to work really nicely. And for me at home, I circumvented any kind of wireless issue by directly hardwiring my PlayStation into my router. So that allows me to actually have a solid connection to the PlayStation 5 without having to worry about Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi connectivity. It gives me the ability of having basically Ethernet connectivity for downloads or any kind of concerns that may be there. Because if you try to download, let's say if you have any updates that are coming through and you're just doing it Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi, unfortunately, the connection to the PlayStation Portable suffers from that because, again, you're running everything over the same connection. Wi-Fi will basically get flooded for a little bit till obviously it's done, and then you'll get the connection back to you. If you're able to configure your Wi-Fi network to give you basically priority connection for the PlayStation Portable, absolutely will make it even better, and it'll actually increase the speed of the connectivity back to your PlayStation 5. But outside of that, this is literally a solution to something I didn't realize I was having a problem with. My PlayStation 5 sits in my office. It doesn't actually sit in the living room because we have an Xbox there. But let's say the configuration is different. Let's say this is in the living room and the family wants to watch a movie. The family wants to watch Netflix or whatever. I can't play my games. I just, this is basically like a hot commodity. The TV in the living room is pretty much for everybody that's in the house, and typically playing games, especially as a dad, makes this a little bit more convenient for me. It's portable. I can go out with it. I can take it out and I can play my PlayStation 5 games straight from my PlayStation 5 directly on here. So again, from that experience, it works absolutely fantastic. Is it worth the price tag that it's being called for? I'm going to have to say that this is something that's going to have to come up for you. I mean, if you were going to use a PlayStation 5 controller and let's say use it with a smartphone, you're going to have to obviously sacrifice one thing over to the other. So it is enjoyable, but at the best, the gaming phone or most of our smartphones are going to be basically 6.7, maybe close to 7 inches. But even then, you're using your primary device, the battery on there, to be able to play games, and that may drain your battery faster, and I don't know how easy it is for us to kind of walk around. You get a carrying case for this, you take it with you, you take it out, connect it to the internet, depending how your solution is there. And I think the PlayStation Portable does the job quite well. Now, again, depending on how fast your internet connection is, how well the gaming experience is going to be. From a standard first-person gaming kind of a solution here, so basically I played Spider-Man here, I played God of War, all of those things work really good. When it starts coming into multiplayer, it may and may not be a cup of tea for everybody because their internet connection there will need to be very, very good for that. So I will probably say this: if you're playing just general gaming, you want to be able to enjoy games by yourself, accessing the games directly from here, or even accessing games on the PlayStation Network, it's going to work perfectly fine. It'll download directly to your PlayStation 5 and it runs from your PlayStation 5. No media, and of course no Bluetooth. We do have Wi-Fi connectivity, and of course the link buds are something that is proprietary to Sony, but they're connected over Wi-Fi, so your connection there will also have very low latency. So there's that much going in there. The headphone jack is actually a good solution. A lot of people that have reviewed this for some reason keep knocking the fact that it doesn't have Bluetooth, but I'll say this. Gaming is something that is dependent on latency, and there's always going to be a factor in there. When the entire system runs on Wi-Fi, the last thing you want to do is add another radio in there, a separate radio, to be able to start doing different things that may interact. And typically Wi-Fi and Bluetooth don't necessarily run very well all the time. So if you try to do it, you'll notice in some devices that where if you have Wi-Fi running and you're running Bluetooth, the network connection may not be as fast. Here, Sony kept everything wireless and of course proprietary with the link buds. But when you take that out of the equation, you're pretty much set. It's a good gaming experience. The headphones are, low latency heaven. They do sound pretty well, and it'll depend on the earbuds that you're using. You'll be able to configure the volume. The link buds I don't have, so I couldn't really test out that experience there. But from a low latency for me, when I'm using them, the speakers work really good. It's not going to be the loudest speakers. Again, keep in mind, this is very thin. It has very much a tablet with a controller connected to it. But I like the organization of it. About 4 to 4.5 hours worth of gameplay with full brightness, And again, it's portable. That's the biggest thing about it. It's basically portable. Yeah, it'll take everything that you want from your PlayStation 5 on the go. So my hope is that this offers you a solution that maybe you haven't thought up before. Because at the end of the day, yes, you do need to have a PlayStation 5, and please, and I hope that if you do pick one up and you're able to find one, you do realize you need to have a PlayStation 5 at the same time. This is not going to work by itself. It doesn't work by just connecting to the PlayStation Network. It needs think of it like a stationary PlayStation 5, either the new or the older model. It works absolutely fantastic. Now, is it going to be compatible with future generations of PlayStation? I hope so, because at the end of the day, there really isn't that much really required from this, other than the fact that a controller is connected to a tablet. All the horsepower is running on your PlayStation 5, so you're not really going to be missing anything. And I hope that the next generation, if there is a PlayStation 5 Pro or other generations, this is just going to carry over as an accessory to all your PlayStation needs. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think of the PlayStation Portal, or as I like to call it, the PlayStation Portable, because it makes the PlayStation experience very much a portable experience. But at the end, it is a solution to maybe a problem that you're having but you didn't realize you had. Meaning you have a PlayStation 5 that you just don't have enough time to be able to play it, or when you want to play the PlayStation, obviously either you're not home or somebody's on the TV already and you have to wait till that time is available for you. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think of the PlayStation Portal? Again, it's a portable solution to play your PlayStation 5 games on the go, on a solution that, again, hopefully will carry forward in the future.